Hello, everyone. I'm Shalika De Silva. On behalf of Samadhi Buddhist Foundation, I'd like to welcome all of you to our first Clarity of Mind through Mindfulness session of the year 2025. I wish you all a very happy new year. Today, our topic is based on another chapter from Bhikkhu Bodhi's book, In the Buddha's Words. Investigate the teacher himself, Vimamsaka Sutta, where Buddha has laid down some guidelines how someone can evaluate his perfect enlightenment through evaluating his mind, bodily deeds, and speech. With great respect, I like to invite most Venerable Padre Chandarathana Thero to commence today's session. Thiruvan Sannai Bhante.
Yeah, Thero Sannai Shalika. So before we begin the session, so as usual, let's get into a few minutes of practice. So I invite all of you to calm down and relax and sit in a comfortable position wherever you are. So we are going for a mindful sitting. Keep your head straight, neck also straight, shoulders relaxed, and then upper half of the body also straight. Now you can gently close your eyes. You can take a deep breath, hold it for a while, slowly release. We all know that now we are simply sitting. So this is a quite ordinary posture, and we are fully aware of the sitting posture. We are not walking, we are not standing, we are not lying down, we are simply sitting. So try to recognize this sitting posture, how comfortable it is, how your body is positioned, how your body parts are positioned. And once you close your eyes, probably you might feel that you are alone, you are being secluded, even though there may be other people, still you have your kind of private time. And come back to yourself. Again and again, be with yourself. There could be various thoughts coming to your mind, so don't encourage them. It could be related to the past, what has happened in the past, some worries, certain regrets, but don't encourage them. Again, come back to the body. Similarly, there may be various plans, various wishes. Don't encourage them. Again, come back to the present moment. That is the body awareness. We are simply sitting. This sitting posture. And once you are well established in the sitting posture, see whether you can recognize some subtle sensations available in the body. Say your eyes are gently closed. There could be a subtle sensation at your eyelids. Lips are gently touching. There is subtle sensation there as well. Jaws are not tightly coupled. Keep them quite released. And keep your tongue at its root. And overall in your face, there can't be any tension. Basically, right now, we are not thinking any particular problem. Rather, we are trying to enjoy the present moment. Basically, it is a kind of a being free, being with ourselves, and maintaining a relaxed mind, calm mind, and again, a knowing mind. And your shoulders are relaxed, arms are resting, maybe clothes are touching the body here and there. Probably you can recognize how they are touching. At certain places, it could be a little tight. At certain other places, just mere rubbing or touching sensation. Here and there, the clothes are touching the body. Again, take a deep breath. Now, when the mindfulness is established, you can keep your attention at the nostril. Try to be aware of each in breath, each out breath. Allow the body to breathe naturally, and we, like an outsider, watching each in breath, each out breath. And as you are familiar with it and confident that now you can continuously watch the breathing without much distractions, you can closely examine each in breath and each out breath, how is it begins, and how it evolves towards the middle, how it ends, and after a while, how the out breath begins, middle, the end, a kind of a gap between the out breath and in breath. So this whole cycle we are trying to closely examine. And while we are doing that, probably you can recognize from which nostril the in breath going in, from which nostril the out breath coming out, or where does it touch comparatively, whether the in breath cool or warm, or the out breath is cool or warm. Some subtle aspects of breathing you can try to recognize. A bit of investigation. Keeping the mind fairly quiet, not to think, but to inquire. Once you are confident, you can continue the same practice if you like, or else you can shift to another practice which you are familiar with. It's also based in Kayanupasana or Vedananupasana or Chittanupasana. And again, if you already have the capacity to keep the mind completely unattached without establishing anywhere, you can start doing that. Okay, we are going to start the today's session actually. And first we'll pay homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So as Shalika mentioned, today also we are going to take another topic from Bhikkhu Bodhi's compilation of various suttas, which is the words of the Buddha. And next topic actually what he has taken is from the Vimamsaka Sutta. Vimamsaka Sutta we can see kind of a inquirer's discourse. So Buddha invites us to inquire about himself. So rather than simply believing him, rather than simply accepting what he say, so he's inviting us to basically to know him, to further sort of investigate him, to ask about him, to know about him. Now this particular sutta is actually delivered in Savatthi while he was in the Jetas Grove, and he addressed the monks and how to evaluate whether he is perfectly enlightened. Now, another interesting thing is now there may be other enlightened disciples who have the capacity to look at Buddha's mind and investigate. So that is more profound and more accurate. But unfortunately, most of the Sangha and most of the other members don't have that capacity. So Buddha comes up with another way of doing it. So since the majority don't have that capacity to read his mind, so Buddha suggests using one's eyes and the ears to observe the Buddha. Now, in this particular sutta, actually, the significance is that it encourages kind of critical inquiry, very much like a faith which is based on evidence rather than dogmatically or blindly following particular teaching, blindly accepting a particular teacher. So he opens up and he bravely asks his disciples to look at him, investigate him, and try to find if there is any fault. So it's a very kind of a very open and in a way quite brave way of addressing the monks. And he emphasizes the investigation. And once the investigation is well done, and if your results are quite positive, and then you get a thorough, or we can say quite strong foundation or this kind of faith about the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. So at the beginning, we all may have certain amount of saddha, so that's why we are getting to the practice. But interesting thing with the Buddha's teaching is that it has the capacity for verification. You don't need to continuously blindly believe anything. Rather, as you continue the practice, more and more you are even asked to inquire, and even during the vipassana practice, also the inquiry is one important factor. And again, in certain suttas like Bahudhatuka Sutta, Buddha particularly advised the monks and the other followers to become inquirers, wise, because inquiring is something very, very important, and that is what here also Buddha highlights. And it's a kind of a need. A monk who does not know how to gauge another's mind must investigate the Tathagata, and how he is going to do it, basically using the ear and the eye. So basically, you know that the reading mind is a very difficult task. You need a lot of skill in that. And it is not a mere guess here we are talking. If one is able to read the mind, parachitta vijnana jnana. So that is also Buddha sometimes mentioned in certain suttas. So after going through a tremendous amount of samatha practice, jhanic practice, one might have the capacity to read someone else's mind. But that is not a common thing. So there may be many other followers who doesn't have that capacity. So here Buddha say, so if you want to look at me, if you want to examine the Buddha, now you better use your eye and the ear. Through the eye and the ear, you can see whether Buddha has any defiled way of behavior, any bodily behavior. Or he is asking whether have you heard any defiled statements, defiled words, speech. Or again, you can either see or hear any mixture of any wholesome and unwholesome both together. Or as you are observing, or only you recognize the kind of cleansed states, completely purified states. You couldn't recognize any of the, say, impure, defiled type of states. Rather, continuously you have done a fair, comprehensive observation, and ultimately you come across that Buddha didn't have any of the defiled states because his bodily actions are completely pure, his verbal actions are completely pure. Actually, not only the Buddhist monks, actually there are certain other ascetics who even have done this investigation. There is one called Subha. So he has done a fair such observation, and he later give a kind of a report to his teacher. So what is the behavior of the Buddha? How he is behaving? So likewise, these things are not the mere words. So even during the Buddha's time, certain other ascetics, they want to find fault, and they were trying to investigate the Buddha, and they are going, or in a way, kind of following the Buddha, what he's doing. They are observing how he's eating, he's observing. And when Buddha is going to village Pindapata, he is observing. When he is preaching, he is observing. When Buddha is having some sort of a secluded time, that is also being remotely observed. So likewise, people have done such kind of an observation. Actually, at the first, it was the motive to find fault, but ultimately they understood that Buddha has very pure conduct. Now here, Buddha is giving a kind of a criteria here for the investigation. Are there any defiled states in the Buddha? So after seeing or after hearing, probably one may decide, okay, none could be found. So this is the kind of a result ultimately we have to come through. So it's not just one day observation, but Buddha asks us to observe more and more through the eyes and the ears. And so after a while, so you come across, so couldn't find any defiled states. So whole bodily conduct throughout this time, throughout my investigation, throughout my research. So Buddha didn't go through any kind of a defiled bodily conduct. Actually, for the bodily conduct to be kind of ill behaving, so that means the mind also has to have some defilements. So that's the bottom line. So you can't have wrong bodily conduct unless you have kind of unwholesome mental states. Similarly, if one is having some wrong, unwholesome way of speech, that indicates his mind is also unwholesome or filled with certain defilements. So therefore, by simply observing the bodily behavior and the verbal behavior, one can assess the purity of the mind. So that's the kind of a message we are getting here. On the other hand, after the observation or during the observation, have you experienced any kind of a mixture of defiled and undefiled states? At certain occasions, say he's having some little bit of defiled state, and another occasion he's having undefiled state. So likewise, during a certain time, is he showing any kind of a mixture of these? So they are also, Buddha say, you can't find such. So you may end up with the result that none of such a mixture would be available. And then how about the cleansed states? Is the Buddha's bodily conduct is completely pure? The verbal conduct is completely pure? So what is your observation? Have you experienced? Have you noticed completely pure bodily conduct? Have you noticed completely pure verbal conduct? Then you decide, yes, I have done this long kind of an investigation, observation, and yes, it is true. All Buddha's conduct, bodily and verbal, are completely pure. So here actually we can take to the level that the typical dasa kusala and dasa akusala. So one is be free from uh, killing animals, stealing, sexual misconduct. So those comes under the basic bodily misconduct. On the other hand, the verbal misconduct, that is the lying and divisive speech, and then kind of harsh speech, and then the gossiping. And then actually the mental conduct, wrong mental conduct is the covetousness and the ill will. Now, basically here we are paying more attention to the verbal and the bodily conduct. I mean, those are the very primary kind of a criteria based on the wholesome deeds and the unwholesome deeds. So if one is practicing any kind of wholesomeness in his mind, so he can't do any killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and all that. So similarly, if he is maintaining a very pure state of mind, he can't lie, he can't spend his time on divisive speech, and again, he can't use harsh speech, and again, he won't spend time in gossiping. So we can easily understand the criteria. But anyway, depending on the observer's capacity, he can go to more and more subtle details. So the 10 wholesome activities and unwholesome activities are the very basic bottom line. But depending on that, as one is further and further refining one's observation, there may be subtle other bodily behavior, verbal behavior that indicates the purity or the impurity of someone's mind. Now, after one's observation, if he gets these proper answers, then the absence of defiled or mixed states and the presence of cleansed states confirm the Buddha's purity. So therefore, this is a kind of way that Buddha encourages his followers to look at him. And not only that, he further adds another point, whether the Buddha has maintained this kind of a purity for long time, or he simply acquired it recently. So we know that he became fully enlightened at the age of 35, and he lived for 80 years, 45 years of his enlightened behavior. And all this time, so if one is looking at him, reading his character, and throughout this 45 years long time, actually how he has behaved. So someone is observing him. So another factor he introduced here is that the long-term maintenance of purity. Because you know that sometimes people are participating in a retreat, they observe Sila, and during that time, probably they may spend a fair amount of pure conduct. But anyway, they can't maintain it for a long time. So after they return back, probably again the bad habits, the past wrong habits comes to occupy the mind. Again, you might end up with wrong behaviors. So therefore, simply by observing a person for a while, you can't decide whether he is completely pure. So therefore, Buddha beautifully adds here. So your investigation also has to be fairly long, fairly comprehensive. Not only that, you are understanding that this particular person, whoever the teacher, is maintaining that good bodily conduct, good verbal conduct for a long time. You might have heard about him, you might have observed him, and you know that he is maintaining this way of behavior, this demeanor, for a fair amount of time. It is not a kind of a short period. And again, the other thing is probably when someone is behaving in front of people, so he can behave one way, but when he is alone, he can behave another way. So that is another criteria that one can understand. because in front of the people, sometimes people behave like saints, but on the other hand, when they have complete seclusion, they behave completely opposite. So that is also possible. So therefore, sometimes the investigator have to, in a way, look at the teacher, whoever the spiritual teacher, in a more clever way to understand whether he is maintaining his conduct not only in the public, even in private. So his behavior has to be kind of continuous. His correct behavior, pure behavior, has to be continuous, irrespective of whether he is in front of people or whether he is completely alone. So then only we can decide that he is not merely showing off, he is not merely acting, rather he is maintaining such good bodily verbal conduct even when he is alone. That's a very, very important factor, because it is not the kind of being afraid that he is maintaining the good godly conduct. He's not out of fear that he is maintaining that. So actually we are coming to that later. So these wholesome states are maintained over a long period of time. And so his stability is fairly consistent. And Buddha's qualities indicate that the depth of his enlightenment. So his depth of the enlightenment is indicating because he was able to maintain for a long time that pure state. And then another very important criteria Buddha introduces here. So has fame corrupted the Buddha? Now, when he became fully enlightened, nobody knew him. And then he himself go to teach the five ascetics, and they also didn't accept him immediately. But later, Buddha was able to convince them and then was able to preach them. Ultimately, all of them became enlightened. And slowly, slowly, he is spreading the message. Then the Yasa and his colleagues comes to the picture, and they also start practicing, and they also became enlightened. So ultimately, there were 60 arahants, and now he is spreading these, asking all these 60 arahants to go in different directions. Now then Buddha got into the Jatilas, Uruela Kassapa, Gaya Kassapa, Nadi Kassapa, and then he preached them, and ultimately they also become the followers of the Buddha. So likewise, he is spreading the teaching. Now, after a while, he also become fairly popular. At the beginning, he is a mere single and very uh, little group that he was handling, but later his teaching become quite popular, and then various kings get to know him, King Kosala, King Bimbisara, and then he went to his own kingdom, the Kapilavattu, King Suddhodana, and then King Udeni. So likewise, many, many other kings also come to the picture. And a huge palace-like monastery was built for him, the Jetavanarama. So that was given by Anathapindika, and that is being offered. And then the really devoted people like Visakha built another monastery, Migaramatu and that is also being offered. And now the message being quite spread, and many are becoming monks, and they also, in terms of the crowd, that is also being uplifted, increased. Now you can see the Buddha is now thriving, and his sasana is thriving, and the number of members in the Sangha community also thriving, and many fame is now coming towards him. So what happened to him? Has he changed his behavior? So that's a very important criteria here Buddha emphasize. So is the Buddha's purity has any influence because of the fame? Because this is a kind of a common thing happen to sometimes to people. So when they are alone and when they are with limited circle, they behave well and they are quite all right. But when they become quite popular and they become well recognized, and now there are many followers and a lot of gain and fame is available, now that can cause a certain kind of a decline in the teacher's behavior. Probably he is now going after the behavior, and probably his aim is now converted towards the kind of amisa puja, towards some material gain, and sometimes he being blocked and hindered by the different kinds of these requisites, and he is now targeting requisites, and probably he is using harsh words to attack the others whenever they are trying to oppose him. So likewise, someone's behavior can be strongly influenced by the gain and the fame. That's another criteria Buddha is asking us to verify whether such thing has happened to the Buddha. At the beginning, he was basically uh, not famous, but later he became fairly famous and popular. So what happened to him? Has he also gone through any decline? Has he shown any kind of misconduct because of this popularity? So there we may understand, okay, even though he got the popularity, nothing has happened to him. He was able to maintain his good conduct intact without any kind of a trouble. He was able to maintain his good conduct. So that's another very, very important criteria that Buddha himself is pointing out here. So you need to see whether after become renowned, after become popular, is the teacher, the Buddha, has gone through any decline? And again, is he restrained out of fear? Or does he avoid any sensual pleasures through the destruction of lust? Now, if someone doesn't have lust at all, then he doesn't need to avoid any sensual pleasures out of fear, because there is no need. Internally, there is no urge, there is no desire, because he has completely destroyed the inner lust. So once the lust is completely destroyed, completely abandoned, there is no urge coming from, there is no request coming from internally. So there is no any kind of a need. But there may be another person, out of fear, he is trying to restrain. So that is one level actually we are talking. So here, therefore, Buddha points another point, that if someone is behaving out of fear, or because he has internally completely abandoned his defilements. So here the understanding comes that Buddha has attained renown but remains uncorrupted. And again, he is restrained not by fear, but by the destruction of lust. So these are two criterion actually. One thing is based on uh, the fame or the popularity. Has it have any kind of an impact towards the good conduct? That is one side. The other thing is you are trying to see whether this person is behaving well out of fear, or internally there is no any kind of a need of bad behavior that he is trying to restrain. Rather, there is no uh, lust at all, so it is natural kind of a behavior. He is not forcefully controlling his senses. Rather, there is no inner kind of a request, inner kind of a momentum, inner agitation. And as a result of that, he is maintaining a very good, soothing, smooth kind of a conduct. And then here basically we can say it is based on the evidence. So faith in the Buddha must be rooted in reasons and direct observation. So you can see, so at the beginning we can't do this kind of an observation because we are also unable to do that. But slowly, slowly, as one become thorough, as one's faith become thorough, and you start investigating, and Buddha invites us to do that. And when someone is doing like this, basically we can say, so his faith is starting growing. Now, previously his faith was very much like kind of a mere superficial type of faith. But more you do this kind of a thorough investigation towards the Buddha's character, your faith become well established. Now things are based on evidence. Now, during the Buddha's time, when he was alive, when someone is doing such investigation, quite obvious that what happened to him. I mean, the observer, because he might have a lot of doubts and he want to find fault, but more he investigate, he become more and more convinced that Buddha doesn't have any kind of such ill behaviors. Now his mind turns the other side. And there are instances like certain monks, actually, they are from another ascetic group, and they found that the Buddha and the Sangha is now thriving, and they want to steal the Dhamma. So their plan was to steal the Dhamma, and one of them come forward and he became a monk so that he can learn the Dhamma, and later he can disrobe and again go back to his group, and he also teach the same thing so that they also become famous, they also become receiving the requisites from the others. So that was their plan. So after, actually his name is Susima, so he ordained and then he became a monk and start learning. Slowly this fellow ultimately became an arahant. Now he actually apologized to Buddha. Bante, I'm sorry. It's a shame to tell you that I came just to steal the Dhamma, but I am a kind of a fool to do that. But now I understood the reality. I understood the truth. Please forgive me. So these kind of stories are also there in the canon. So we can find out. So people have come to the sasana with various wrong motives, but ultimately they were convinced and they became even arhants. And so basically, these kind of personal experience of the Dhamma support confidence in his enlightenment, and therefore the faith we are talking in the Buddha Sasana is actually, it is very much like evidence based. It is rooted in wisdom, and it is firm and invincible. So that's why when someone becomes Sotapanna, a stream winner, so it is mentioned that no one else can change. No one else can change his confidence, so no one else can change his faith towards the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. Now his full conviction is based on the wisdom. They are not mere beliefs, but he was able to cultivate the qualities that Buddha has mentioned. Previously, only he has heard about them, but now he become a living example to those qualities. Say, for example, someone has heard about mindfulness. Just a mere reading, just a mere word, but later assume that he is putting himself into the practice and he is working hard and he is developing mindfulness. And after a while, probably he may understand, okay, I have heard about the samadhi, but now I myself experience certain amount of samadhi. My mind also sometimes become concentrated, well focused. And I have heard about effort, but now myself also have certain amount of effort. And I have heard about faith, but now the faith is becoming more and more strong, and I am becoming more and more convinced. So likewise, so his faith faculty is also growing, and later he may start vipassana practice. So there he getting to know about the realities. So how true is the Buddha's teaching? Understanding the Buddha's teaching more thoroughly through one's own experience by thorough investigation. So there he understand, okay, Buddha has pointed out certain truths, universal truths, and how true they are. I myself was able to verify them. So now he is talking about the wisdom faculty, panya, through his own experiential knowledge. Now these five faculties, saddha, viriya, sati, samadhi, panya, are fairly available in his mind. Now he become thoroughly established. Now he has unwavering kind of faith towards the Buddha, towards the Dhamma, towards the Sangha, because he became kind of an example, a living example to the Buddha's teaching. Those qualities, those sublime qualities are now very much like available in his mind. So you can see how beautiful it is, how profound it is, and how Buddha in a more profound way, inviting his followers to verify him, to verify his teaching, and then you become thoroughly established. Now, therefore, the role of Dhamma in the investigation is very prominent. Where more you investigate, more you practice, actually you learn much about the Buddha. Through the Dhamma, you can see the Buddha. Your Dhammam passati, so mam passati. So that's what actually even yesterday we were discussing at Kalalgoda. So how Buddha bravely invites to investigate him and investigate his Dhamma, and Dhamma itself having the quality like ehi passika, come and see. Put me into the practice and see whether it is working for you. So once you are developing those sublime qualities, you are trying to understand the Buddha's teaching, the more you understand, the more you have faith towards the Buddha. You understand who the Buddha is. Previously, he may be simply a historical figure who was in India, kind of a historical person, but now you see the Buddha from a different angle because you have developed certain inner spiritual qualities within you. And what a kind of a teacher to explain these things. What a kind of a teacher is the Buddha to explain this kind of a Dhamma. So when someone is looking, searching, investigating, practicing Dhamma, now the Buddha starts kind of available to us, accessible to us, being with us. So then he is actually living with us. The Buddha starts living in our heart. No more that you are simply superficially believing him, rather now he is living with you. And here outcome, as monks gain direct knowledge of the teachings, their confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha becomes unshakable. So understanding the Dhamma reinforces one's trust in the Buddha's enlightenment. So more we understand the Dhamma, kind of more profound teachings, and we ourselves develop these qualities, then we understand who is the Buddha. Faith is reason and evidence-based. It withstands challenges from any ascetic, Brahmin, Deva, Mara, or Brahma. So when such unwavering kind of faith is established in oneself, no one else can attack you. No one else can change you. Because your faith in the Buddha become quite firm. So that's why it is called sometimes Akaravati Saddha or Aviccappasada, where the Saddha is well established. Someone else can't bribe you or give you something and change your faith. Rather, now your faith is well established. You become an example to the Buddha's teaching. You become a true disciple of the Buddha. And a faith grounded in investigation is unshakable and leads to liberation. So such kind of a faith leading towards liberation. At the beginning, the faith is fairly superficial. So you might even lose it. You might even drop it. And you may go to another sect even. But as you do the proper investigation, proper practice, really developing these qualities within you, within your heart, then your faith is unwavering, unshakable. And it may lead to further purification. Because it's very much like Buddha is the catalyst. So Buddha is the teacher, Buddha is giving us the best role model, and he is the best Kalyana Mitta. And more we understand his pure conduct, we also tends to make ourselves with pure conduct. More we understand his way of speech, we also tends to very much like follow the same path, and we also trying to use the same type of speech. And more we understand how his mentality, how he is well purified in the mind, and we also tends to purify our minds. So Buddha giving us such a kind of a inspiration, such a kind of a example, so his followers also start not only superficially venerating him, but they are also following him. They are also finding refuge in him. So therefore, you can see what a kind of a teaching that we are having, we are talking, and what the kind of a teacher we are having. Buddha being such a spiritual teacher, we are quite fortunate to have such a spiritual teacher. So the Vimamsaka Sutta emphasizes the importance of inquiry and evidence in evaluating the Buddha and his teachings. And faith should arise from direct observation and personal experience, not blind belief. And therefore, the spiritual approach with critical mind is not something that Buddha denied, but rather he encouraged it. And the trust is well grounded through experience, through observation. And then the trust becomes an unshakable faith. Okay, with that, I like to conclude today's teaching. And it is quite encouraging and helping us to have unshakable faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. So now I like to open the session for questions. Actually, yesterday also we were discussing Kalakarama Sutta and Kalalgoda. So there also we were discussing some sublime, profound qualities of the Buddha. So this is something we can add even here. So in the Kalakarama Sutta also, Buddha himself is talking some very profound Buddha's qualities, starting with his omniscience, the Sarvajñata Jnana, and then leading towards the complete purity of the mind, Shinashrava. So his mind is completely pure, free from the asavas. And then how well he is establishing the truth, the Satya Bhumi. And then with respect to the practice, how well he is talking about the emptiness, Sunyata Bhumi. And then how unshakable his mind is, what we call the Tadi Bhumi. So knowing, understanding Buddha's teaching and see through or using these teachings to understand the Buddha is a very profound way of approaching, actually. Therefore, we can encourage ourselves, we can encourage everyone. You just come and see. You put it into practice and see. It is not something hidden. It's open. It is anyone can practice it and see. It's not something hidden. It is not only limited to a certain group of people. Rather, it is something available to all human beings. So it's very beautiful in that way that when we are looking at it, it's so convincing.
Thank you, Bhante. Ashini, you can unmute and present your question.
Thero Swamin Hansa.
Yes.
Swamin Hansa, I like to do sound meditation, that is listening to sound. And so far I have observed that it is very much beneficial for me to bring my attention to one thing. And it enables me to do the mindful practice much better than before. So what is your perspective about this sound meditation, Swami Hansa?
No problem. Actually, that is sometimes called as mindful listening. So you can keep the mind quite open. So rather than focusing onto one sound, keep it wide open and let the sounds happen on many different directions. And immediately you know it and drop it. Don't keep thinking about it anyway. So just recognize the sound and let it go. It can assume now, for example, one sound has happened from your left side. It's a dog's bark. And you recognize it, drop it. Don't think about him. Let's say another sound happen. It may be a bird's chirping, maybe from your right side. You recognize it, drop it. Maybe someone else talking. It may happen from the behind side. Say you recognize it, drop it. So likewise, let the sounds happen from many directions and you keep the mind wide open. So then there can't have any stress in the mind. Rather, the mind become more and more open. So this open awareness is quite encouraged in this kind of mindful listening. So rather than you listen to a repeated one type of sound, you are having kind of a multitude of different sounds, and you are fully aware, you are quite open, you are quite receptive. So I feel this kind of a practice would be much beneficial than particularly selecting one type of repeated sound and paying strict attention to that. More than that, probably you are able to have wide open mind, let the sounds happen from any direction, and you are ready to recognize it and drop it. You are not supposed to look at it, or you are not supposed to think about it. Rather, you merely know how it appear and then disappear.
Thank you, Sanansa. Sanansa, there's another thing I wanted to add. I was doing this practice for more than 1 year now, about 1 year and 2 months. Do you see any progress in me, Swami Hansa? After
Yes,
reflecting on my reflection reports and everything, after discussions and all the things.
yes, I see your progress.
Thank you very much, Sainaz. The final thing I wanted to tell you, Sainaz, is that there's a Nisarnavane branch at Agalapatta, Sainaz. I lately discovered, and I'm
Yeah.
going to it for meditation on 4 days, and I'm very happy, Sainaz.
Are you closer to Agalavat?
Dhammasarana Swami Nuhanse is there.
Yes, yes, yes. I know him. And
Swami
are
Nuhanse,
you
I am
Agalavat?
closer to Matsugama Swami Nuhanse. I am at Yatadolawatta, a bit
Ah,
further towards Kadutara. But I can
I,
manage to reach there, Agalawatta Monastery. It takes only 1 hour of
ah,
bus, transport by bus.
because
So
he
I am
conducts
able to go there.
every poet day, and sometimes there are Satipasala programs also. And he's a very nice person, and definitely you can get some benefit from there.
Yes, I'm very happy because I thought that because of my sicknesses, I will never be able to go to Nissanani, but Nissanani has come closer to me because because I'm good, because I'm better than before. So I'm very happy, Swaminatha. I wish that Obahansis will also get an opportunity to come to Agalavatta one day in a poor day when Obahansi has a free time. Thank you,
Yes,
Swami.
yes. Actually, he often updates us. So whenever he conducts a program, he gets some photos and share with us. And all that is happening. He is maintaining a good relationship with Nisarnwane.
And Soinas, nice to hear, very happy. And Soinas, I hope one day Obahansi will come to do a meditation program at Agrawat. Thank you, Soinas.
You see. Radhika has shown thumbs up.
I saw another hand raised, but I don't see it right now.
So any comments about Vimamsaka Sutta, Shalika?
Actually, it's really good because most of as Buddhists, like we have like most of the people have like a kind of a blind faith. It's like we became Buddhists because of our parents are Buddhists, so that's how we became Buddhists. So it's mostly like based on like people have the superficial faith. When it's like when Buddha like open, like anybody can come and see with perfectly
Enlightened.
enlightened, and
Mm.
it's normally people, yes, there are a lot of teachers, even nobody gives such a like a open invitation, you come and investigate me. It's like whatever I say, you have to believe me. So
Exactly.
it's very interesting because when you develop that faith based on the evidence, that faith is pure and is it will never go away. So
Exactly.
it's such an interesting sutta, Bhante. Thank you so much for explaining us and having this, session, teaching us about this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, actually, you can listen to the Kalakarama Sutta also. We'll make it available in the web.
Okay.
So the recordings will be available in our website. So Kalakarama Sutta is another very interesting sutta, very profoundly that Buddha is talking the merge with the Dhamma. He's talking his sublime qualities. Very, very profound sutta, Kalakarama Sutta also. And we invite everyone to listen to that as well.
Bhante, can you please send me the link once it is uploaded so then I can share with our participants?
Sure, definitely. Yeah. I mean,
Radhika?
fast two recordings are available. I'll try to
Uh-huh.
get it itself. Uh, because last month we started that at Kalalgoda and should be available in the web.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Sure, Bhante, please send it to me, then I can send all the links in my email.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes, Radhika, please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you, Shalika. Thelwan Saranai Bante. No, I agree with Shalika. It's very, very good. But I didn't become a Buddhist just because I was born a Buddhist. I went to a Christian school and studied Christianity. So, I mean, I didn't go for any Dhamma classes or anything. I went to chapel. But I had a strong Buddhist background. I mean, this is not what I was putting my hand up to tell. But after Shalika spoke, I felt I had to tell this too. I have total confidence in the Buddha, and it's unshaken. Like whatever happens, I try to do my best, and I do the retreats as much as I can. I've been doing 2 to 3, right, per year. Whatever I get, I go, because I know it's very difficult to get things here in English, and my Sinhalese is very poor. So, because I studied in English, so I try really, really hard. Going anywhere Theravada, especially if it's Burmese or Thai or Sri Lankan, and I must say that if there is a lacking confidence, is in myself, not in the Buddha, the Dhamma, or the Arahant Sangha, the Arya Pugala Sangha. No, I have absolutely total confidence there, but sometimes I'm not sure why certain things happen to me, and when I go for a retreat and I ask them, the teachers don't know, and so then I come back and ask you, and then I ask Venerable Dhammajiva, but Venerable Dhammajiva will tell it to me in Sinhalese and I don't follow. Then I get a translation from someone. So I think at times I have not enough confidence in myself. So other than that, I was just going to tell you that I really, really like today's talk, as I did last time. So I'm waiting for the recordings, because both were excellent. And I agree with you that one reason that I have the confidence in the Dhamma is because starting in 1989, I started studying Buddhism to teach the children, because our children were growing up with no, in Canada, with no Dhamma education. And to make things worse, our son was going to a Catholic school, right? Because the closest school nearby was a Catholic school. So I decided that, and then when he was in kindergarten, he was told that in grade 4, he was going to be confirmed as a Catholic. And I got a little bit, I went to a Christian school, but I wasn't, it was a very good school, and I didn't have to do anything like that. I mean, in the sense I went to chapel and all that, but nobody said I was going to be confirmed or anything. It was a Methodist or I don't know. It was a British school, so it was different. So then I started teaching, and I read books, and that's how I learned and started teaching. So I was so inspired. I collected about 1,000 books. I do things halfway, right? And I gave about half away when we retired. I gave them away. So now I have about 400 books only. And I don't even read now because Venerable Dhammajiva told me enough of writing books, enough of teaching, you sit and meditate. So I'm trying so hard to do what he said, but and I haven't really been, except for the ones you did with me. I did with, with your help. I haven't done any, but I miss it. I miss the writing because I think when I was doing the writing, there was no deadline which I could handle. And that made it easier because I'm kind of very stressed out because I can't meet any deadlines now because my life is not in one city. I'm moving around 3-4 places every year. And so, and half the time I don't have access also. So I'm, missing things. But I agree that if you have read a lot and found it on your own, there is nothing that I can compare to the teachings of the Buddha. Nothing. And I did comparative religions and I took classes also in the university. So I wanted to tell you that I really enjoyed these talks, both of them.
Yeah, thank you.
Bhante, can I have just as a question about during this like today meditation session? So basically when doing the meditation, as you said, I could go to state where I was not, paying attention to whether I'm getting thoughts. I'm just like simply like basically I'm not concentrating on anything, just but my mind is in my body. So I was just feeling like here and there vibrations, and sometimes my feel my no thoughts like specific thoughts, just touching my back was touching the cushion behind me. So like, but mostly like there wasn't any anything else, just like whatever the vibrations that I feel like something's touching my skin. That's all. So when I was so basically, when is it okay to like continue like this, like without having any investigating forcefully, like whether I'm my thoughts, whether I'm getting thoughts or something, like whatever what I'm feeling at that moment, just notice it and let it go.
Yeah, I think that is okay. So basically, the thing is, Shalika, now this kind of a practice needs to be practiced for a while
Mm-hmm.
for us to thoroughly understand the impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. So that understanding more, and once it becomes more and more thorough, so the mind starts letting go of the whole thing without any force. So it becomes more natural to let go.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
actually I was not holding on to anything. I just feel it. It's just like just it disappeared. I even feel that, it disappears. And then whatever the come prominent, then my attention is there, my mind is there. So then it's again it goes away like that. So like I was feeling like vibrations like, throughout my body, and even like my head, and those kind of feelings that I was like observing.
Yeah, no problem. So you recognize them and let it go. So
Mm-hmm.
more and more they come and go. You are getting some kind of an experiential knowledge that how true it is that they are conditioned, they're impermanent.
Mm-hmm.
So we have heard about impermanence, but to that level we haven't very much like touched it. Now we are I mean, the point is, now probably you have heard about bhavita bahulikata. So these are
Mm-hmm.
two terms they emphasize. So you need to develop and you need to see it for million times basically. So more we look at it, more we experience. So typically our behavior is that we are tempted to grasp things, hold things, attach to things, and but later when the vipassana being well established, it. It is not out of memory. It is not that you are losing your memory. Rather, now certain things automatically being dropped by the mind. Doesn't want to keep it for a long time. things are happening, you are experiencing things like in a fresh way, but not storing things. Mind doesn't want to store things. Mind doesn't want to regret about the past incidents, and nor much planning either.
Mm. Fine.
And
Bhante?
mind likes to live in the present moment in a more I got disconnected, Chalika.
Yeah,
Hope
Bhante, yeah, you have been breaking up quite for
I see.
for a few minutes now.
Ah. So I was telling that now when we were practicing, so slowly we need to see kind of the transient nature of different phenomena. It may be bodily phenomena, it may be feelings, it may be thoughts. So more you understand that transience, then mind naturally starts letting go things. Mind doesn't want to hold things because it has seen the transience, it has seen the impermanence by itself. It is not the mere superficially, mere because of the Buddha's teaching. Rather, you yourself has seen it for you now. So then the letting go become more and more natural. And at that moment, see whether you can keep such a completely unattached mind for a while. Say, for example, even now you mentioned, so you are able to observe different bodily phenomena. So they are coming and going, coming and going. So after a while, say they come and go, and you get a pause, a kind of a pause. There is no such phenomena available. And you simply saw they are all passing away, and you get a kind of a pause. So during this pause, try to keep the mind unattached without putting your attention to anything if possible. You can simply watch the mind. There may be simple thoughts coming and going. Allow them also to pass away. And they also find a gap. They also find a kind of a void.
Mhm.
And try to keep your attention on that void. Nothing is there. Simply be there, not purposely taking any object. You are aware, but there is no object to be aware. See whether you can stay there.
Basically, kind of emptiness.
Exactly. So here, emptiness in the sense that the mind is empty of defilements, empty of thoughts even, and there is nothing to observe, or everything has passed away. So the mind has kind of a rest, a kind of a complete, complete relaxation in a way. So the beautiful thing is for our mind to be mindful, it is not essential to have an object. So typically we think for us to be mindful, there should be something, no?
Yeah.
Either I have to pay attention to the breathing, I have to pay attention to rising and falling, I have to pay attention to the walking. There is something should be there for me to be mindful. But another stage is there. You are mindful, but there is nothing is there in the mind to be mindful, but you are fully awake, fully alert, well mindful, but in your mindful space, nothing is available, by the way.
That is the moment you have the most relaxed moment, I can say, because like even when we do the breathing, when you're focusing on the breathing, you have to like put an first when you start it, you have to put an effort to like look at it. So
Right.
it's become very tiring like for us after some time, and then you have to like anyway don't want. Sometimes I feel like I don't want to just focus on that anymore, like but it's like naturally it's like it goes away and feels like it more relaxed in such a way that rather than focusing on just one object.
Exactly. Because the thing is, now we can't immediately jump to that state. That's why we need some kind of a systematic training, that we need to do a comprehensive investigation. That investigation is the one giving us enough courage to let go of the whole thing. Because otherwise the mind's nature is to grasp onto something, establish on something, holding onto something. It doesn't have the inner wisdom to be free by itself. So you need that's why Buddha's teaching is so critical. So he is asking us to investigate where you are located, where you are established, where you are holding, what you are holding. And all are fragile, all are quite impermanent, all are vulnerable. So why are you grasping it then? So you are holding something completely illusory thing, and no point of believing it, no point of holding it, because it's so vulnerable. So when you see that, when the mind see that, it keeps dropping it, it keeps letting go, because it understands, okay, no point of further attaching to it, because it is something not dependable. So then mind starts letting go, and we have to encourage then the mind, okay, you be free now, and you just be, nothing will happen, don't be afraid, you don't need to hold anything, just be free. So kind of an encouragement has to come, and then mind will learn, okay, I can be there, I don't need anything. So simple awareness is there without any object, simple awareness is there.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you so much.
Okay, since there is no more questions, shall we wind up?
Thank you so much for a valuable Dhamma talk as usual. So I wish you good health and a long life, Bhante. And I want to thank you all for being with us today, and hopefully you have a very restful and a happy weekend.
Yeah,
Thero
everyone,
Sadda, Bhante.